Welcome back to CareerCon. I am Jessica, and we are back from our lunch break and here with Jen Wang to talk about demystifying the transition from PhD student to data science. Coming out of academia into data science is another common challenge many people face, and with many uncertainties. How much coding experience do I need? Am I making a big mistake abandoning my PhD discipline to go to a new career? Jen Wang is here to give her expert take on those topics. Jen is currently a data science manager at Wayfair. She received her PhD in physical chemistry from the University of Iowa. She has since successfully navigated her way from academia into data science and is currently leading a data science team to support direct mail and display programs at Wayfair. Take it away, Jen.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm really honored to be here as a speaker. I'm a big fan of Kaggle. And to everybody who's listening, good afternoon. I hope you are enjoying the career event. I still remember 3-4 years ago, I was at similar career events, wondering what my next steps would be. It's definitely very different from what, like my career today is very different from what I imagined. And having made the transition myself, I like to share with you what happened in my journey and some lessons I learned and some additional tips for you. Let me start with my own journey. I was going to, so when I was a child, I was really interested in science. So especially I wanted to be a scientist working in medicine and health field. That's why I got a PhD in chemistry and then did drug design research for my postdoc. I was hoping to become a professor and solving some really challenging research problems and someday win the Nobel Prize. Well, that didn't happen because I became a little confused and I started wondering how much impact my research was really making. To give a little background, I was doing drug design to cure disease. That is a very bright end goal, but my everyday research was very, very basic. Even if my research is successful, there are a lot of downstream questions that need to be answered before a drug candidate becomes available in the market. So even if I'm lucky, my molecule would be available to help someone else's life in 20 years. And as I grow older, it just becomes more and more important for me to see faster turnover on my work. I want to make more immediate impact. And also, I became more interested in disease prevention rather than treatment. So I just became more and more unsatisfied with my own work. And that's how I started beginning to explore other opportunities outside my domain. This is how my journey actually looks like. I started as a confused postdoc, not entirely sure what my next step would be. So I just took some time to do some self-reflection, keep asking myself, what do I really care about? And after I and rather than treating disease, then I started to learn on my own by Googling and also going to seminars and conferences. And after some time, I came up with the idea to combine metabolomics and alternative medicine to understand health better. And I even wrote a research proposal based on the idea, which didn't get funded, as you might have guessed. But because I was working on this proposal, I got exposed to many tools useful for solving that problem. And one of the tools was deep learning. And I started learning more about that field and became really fascinated. So I started to take classes online in data science and machine learning field, which eventually led me to offer from Insight Data Science program to join their health data science program in Boston. So I moved to Boston, hoping to find a health data scientist position in industry. But eventually I ended up at Wayfair, which was unplanned. I can elaborate on that, but just briefly, I was introduced to many different employers in the field when I was at Insight program. And I really liked people I talked to in Wayfair, and I became interested in the business challenges they were trying to solve with data science tools. And also, it's just a gut feeling that Wayfair is a good place for me to learn more and also reset and try to learn something totally different from what I've been doing in my life, which can give me more like fresh perspective to how to solve problems. So I landed my first real job as a marketing data scientist at Wayfair, and now I'm a manager leading the data science teams that support the display and direct mail marketing at Wayfair. Having come this far, I have a few lessons to share with you. First is there will be a lot of barriers and uncertainties in the career development path. Some of you might be thinking developing a career is more difficult, but not that different from what you do in school. If you have a very clearly defined goal and you work hard, you will be there in maybe a few months. But in reality, nothing works that way. You do need to make plans, but more importantly, you want to take actions early, because until you get out there and try out all the different paths, you never know what part of your plan would work, and what kind of barriers you would hit, and also what kind of new opportunities would arise as you continue to improve yourself. So it's like working in a maze. You just have to like try many different ways to make things work out. Take me for example. I didn't plan to become a data scientist. All I had was a research idea that I was really passionate about, and I was just like learning and trying to explore all the different options, which eventually led me to the data science field and my current position. So make plans, and but more importantly, take actions early and expect all these uncertainties and keep an open mind to the new opportunities. The second lesson I learned is, in order to find your sweet spot for career satisfaction, you really need to align your passion and your skills with market. This is the lesson I wish I learned earlier in my life. When I was younger, all I cared about is I want to do what I love. I really like, I was passionate about drug design and treating disease, and I was good in the lab, but I didn't consider the market because I was young and not smart, I guess. But this is fine because I was poor, but at least I was happy. But as I grew older, my interest shifted, and now I'm poor and unhappy. So even though it felt like a shame to throw away everything I learned in the drug design field, it still makes more sense for me to move out of that area. So if you are in a similar situation, if you feel like your interest has changed, you no longer like what you did, so just accept that fact and take a step back, really think about what you want to do right now. And one resource I recommend is the Live Your Legend Discovery Pack. You can Google and find it. This helped me in my most confused time of my life. Or if anybody has any use for resources, just share on the Slack channel, and we can you can try to explore all the different ways. And another lesson I like to share is, you want to choose the right industry and company that can help you accelerate professional growth and maximize your potential value. We have a Chinese idiom, 水涨船高, which means as the water rises higher, the boat naturally floats higher. I'd like to borrow that concept here and think of industry, the field, as water, and the company is a boat, and we are like sailors riding on the boat. So you want to choose an industry that has a very promising future, like data science is the right call. And also the company that give you the opportunity to grow fast. For example, I think I have learned a lot more and grow much faster in the past 2.5 years since I transitioned from a chemist to a data scientist. This is not only because data science is a much faster growing field, but also because I joined Wayfair. And Wayfair had that, uh, uh, Wayfair has that supportive environment to enable me learn more and do things faster. And after I became a data scientist at Wayfair, I've got a lot of questions from PhD students and postdocs with similar background. And through the conversations, I've realized there are some misconceptions about what it means to be a data scientist and how to become one. So I like to share this here. The first myth or misconception is coding is the most important skill for a data scientist. This might be true for some of the data science jobs, but definitely not the case for many data science positions in industry. Especially at Wayfair, we don't just sit at our computer, wear earphones, and code all day to get the machine learning solutions. How we work is we form cross-functional teams with other business partners to solve business challenges together. It is important to be able to code effectively, but there are also many other skills required to perform the job well. For example, as marketing data scientists, we are thought partners with our marketing stakeholders, and we meet regularly with them to analyze the campaign performance and brainstorm project ideas and prototype business solutions. We need to communicate our ideas and models very effectively to many other teams at Wayfair, and some of the people are not technical. Also, in my opinion, data scientists are still called scientists because they share some common qualities as other types of scientists. For example, for sometimes I think be able to think through the problem critically and creatively is more important than coding and implementing the solutions. Also, as you climb up the ladder in your career, roadmap planning will become more and more important part of your job. So all of this would require other skills than coding. And just to give some examples of core qualities of a data scientist, you need to be able to understand all the pros and cons of common machine learning algorithms and have the business acumen to understand non-technical challenges and perspectives. And also very important to have critical thinking and problem solving skills and attention to detail in order to discover nuances in data. There are so many examples I've seen in Wayfair that just paying attention to some detail how the data is processed has made big breakthrough in our workflow. Also, excellent communication skills and be able to collaborate with many different teams at your company. Compared to coding, these skills are much harder to acquire. And I think that's the reason why PhDs are very highly desired in many industry data science jobs, because just on average, we've seen PhDs usually have these qualities just out of their PhD training. This brings us to the next point. Some people wonder how much their PhD are still valuable if they transition into a new domain. So when some people heard I transitioned from a chemist to a data scientist in marketing, their first question is, do you regret to get your PhD in chemistry? Because now it's not valuable anymore. I mean, it's not useful for your job. So if they met the PhD title, then I agree, because the PhD title just means I know a lot about nothing. It's a very narrow subject. So that would not, knowing a lot about a specific domain of chemistry does not transfer into other domains. However, I think I've learned a lot of other valuable skills other than the domain knowledge and skills. To me, I think earning a PhD is a tremendous character building exercise because all our dissertation research are unsolved problems. And maybe there's just no solution at all. And you just have to keep pushing the boundaries and try harder and harder. Not sure about you guys, but I feel like my experiments fail 90% of the time. So I was really frustrated in my first few years of PhD. And, but because of these failures and frustration, I learned to really carefully design my experiments and think through a problem critically at the beginning, and also think outside the box to find creative solutions. Also, when my experiments kept failing, my PhD advisor was very patient with me, and he was very supportive and provided a lot of guidance. So from him, I also learned to be patient and persistent, and also how to handle stress. And this, I think in my mind, these skills are much more valuable than the domain knowledge. And these are things you can carry with you into any new domain. I feel like the PhD training really enabled me to ask the right question and solve any challenges in any new domain. And I just feel I've become a much better person after my PhD training. Myth 3 is companies don't give you the time to learn new things. When I started considering a career outside academia, my biggest fear is I will lose the fun of learning, because my impression about the industry job is to use whatever you already know and work hard to solve whatever problem your manager gives you. I know a lot of students have the same impression, and having worked in industry for more than 2 years, I can now happily report back to you this is not the case. As a matter of fact, I think there are more learning opportunities in industry because companies usually have a structure to help their employees learn at work and improve their performance. Take Wayfair as an example. Our data science teams have weekly team huddle where a member does a deep dive of their project, just outlining the research problems, what method they are using, and try to brainstorm together with the rest of the team. This is very similar to our lab meetings in academia. There are more than 100 data scientists at Wayfair, and every month we have all hands meeting where a sub-team would give a dive into their work stream, talk about the business problem, also the method they are using. This is very similar to the department seminars we have in academia. And also there are company-wide journal clubs and lunch and learns to discuss research fresh out of academia, or some tools that can be useful for many people. And this is similar to the university-wide seminars and workshops where you can acquire skills outside your immediate working domain. In addition, Wayfair also has Learn at Work, which teach employees not only the technical skills, but also the business and management and leadership skills. You also have feedback constantly from your manager and peers, and there are also mentor program. I don't think these opportunities are available in academia, especially training and coaching in business skills, unless you are in a business related major. So I think this is why I've learned a lot and made more progress over the past 2.5 years than any of the years I spent in academia. Another question I hear a lot about PhD students is whether they should do a data science bootcamp in order to transition into the data science field. For me, I participated in the Insight Data Science program. It is very helpful for me, but I suspect it's not absolutely necessary for everybody, especially for those who are ready to make the jump. So instead, what you should ask yourself is what skills or opportunities you are lacking. You can bridge most of the skills on your own. It is harder, but it's possible. For example, if you need practice on the basic coding or machine learning and data science skills, you can just take classes online or practice in Kaggle competitions and Google for solutions as you go. If you are thinking about getting critical thinking and problem solving skills, unfortunately, I don't think bootcamps can help you with that because this is the true value of PhD training. And these skills really take years of practice to get. And if you need help with communication skills, you can join Toastmaster Club or just find more speaking opportunities like at conferences, department seminars, or even just lab meetings, and make a conscious effort to improve. And for business acumen, you can find business cases to practice online or joining the consulting clubs at your university. And for networking opportunities, there are a lot of meetups and conferences. You can also join LinkedIn groups or just connect to others through Kaggle competitions together. Then you might ask, when should I consider a data science bootcamp or a data science program like Insight? So first of all, if the program you are considering is just to help you improve the coding skills, then I think you can avoid it because this is actually the easiest skills to pick up on your own. But if you do need some polish on some skills, you might consider joining a more sophisticated program like Inside Data Science. And I can give you a little personal perspective why I think Inside Data Science helped me. First of all, I was working in a chemistry field, and I did have some coding experience, but mostly I was an experimental chemist, and the problems I work on are very far away from data science. People around me were actually not even aware, like 2 years ago, 4 years ago, when I mentioned data science, at least they were not like even aware of that. So it is very hard for somebody like my background to prove out on my own that I'm ready to take a position in industry as data scientist. I think that's one of the reasons why Inside Data Science was helpful in my case. Secondly, I think the program was pretty well designed. So they put fellows with similar mindsets but complementary skills into one room so that we can learn from each other. And they also provide the resources for us to develop our own data science project or the opportunity to work on a consulting project. So it's really also they help you polish the presentation to pitch your project to the companies you are interviewing at. So they really gave an opportunity for us to develop a data science project end to end, from ideation to delivering a data product. And also, I think the most value I got out of the program was network. I know now I have a high quality network of top-notch data scientists in industry who I can turn to with very challenging problems. And also, another reason you might want to consider a program is you really need someone else to monitor your progress. And finally, I have an additional piece of advice of how to launch a career in data science, which is build your own project. Once you have a basic understanding of all the different machine learning algorithms, you're find the problem not do in your life, because then you will be super motivated to solve that problem, and nothing can stop you. And before you know it, you will make a lot of progress. And also because everybody's dream project is different, it would be a very novel, original research idea, and it adds a personal story when you bring it to your interview. And a bonus point is you'll become very effective at Googling, which is a really valuable life skill. To build a project to showcase on your resume or interview, you really don't need it to be complicated. Your dream project might be very complicated, but you can maybe you can break it down into small steps and just start with the first step, build a MVP project or something small that's relevant to solving your problem. For example, I was really interested in combining metabolomics and alternative medicine to understand state between health and disease, which I call a sub-healthy state. But that would involve a lot of different domain knowledge and also a lot of data, which is hard to find. So the research might take 20 years. What I did is, because I know I cannot solve the problem immediately to showcase on my resume, I just built something very simple. I just look at where people are tweeting about alternative medicines, what they are talking about, and also their sentiment. And this actually brought me to the Insight Data Science program. So you can also build something as simple as this. And this is all I want to talk about. I want to take the opportunity to thank my postdoc advisor, Professor Wang. He's just the most diligent scientist and most amazing person I've ever met in life. He was very understanding, and he showed full support for my career transition from the domain that he's familiar with into a domain he really doesn't know much, but he was super supportive. And also thanks to Wayfair and the data science team for a very inspiring learning environment. I know I owe all my successes to Wayfair and the data science team. And I used the presentation template from Slides Carnival and illustrations by Andrew to make this presentation. So thanks to all the people who made and released those resources for free. And also Chris Hoy at Wayfair for feedback on my slides. And finally, thanks to everybody who's listening. And I'd like to open the floor for questions.
What a great presentation, Jen. I personally resonated with a lot of the advice you gave on not just practical job seeking advice, but also like attitudes and sort of questions to ask yourself that really go beyond just getting the job. So thank you. Is a PhD needed for data science is a really common question that I get even in my own everyday life. And I think your perspectives were really well articulated and spot on. So with that being said, yeah, let's move into answering live Q&A questions from the community on Slack. Our first question is from Moyo Ajayi. And Moyo wonders, what are some of the ways PhD students, particularly those lacking in work experience, can highlight their skills when applying for data science jobs?
Yeah, so what a trick I used when I was applying for a job is to read the job description and highlight the requirements and then think what is in me that match those requirements. So it can be simple, like for example, if you have worked on a project, then think about what kind of skills, what kind of tools you have used, which might be relevant to data science. And also, have you presented this work at conferences? Have you written papers on that topic? So then that also can showcase your communication skills. So you can use like just like take a step back and look at the job description, think about what skills you have that's relevant.
Great. Next question is from Rashab Sharma. Hi, I am a current master's student and I will graduate in May 2019. I have a PhD offer and at the same time also a full-time job offer for ML. My question to you is, at this critical point, would your advice to be to take the PhD offer or the job offer? Also, did taking a full-time job after your PhD help you better in the career more long-term, or do you think taking the job would have just been fine as well?
I think there are a few aspects. To me personally, PhD helped, but I think that's because I wasn't good enough before taking the PhD. But for you, I think you can think about, as you mentioned already, the long term. Does the PhD, I don't know what field the PhD offer is, but think about how this would help you in the long term, but also consider the market, right? In maybe the PhD, you think it will help you given the current job situation, but in 5 years, does it change? The area where you are going to receive PhD, is the job market going to be saturated then? If that is the case, does the PhD training give you additional skills you can carry over to any of other fields? But I think also most importantly, you should consider what your calling is, like what your heart desire. So does the job offer for machine learning give you the opportunity to do what you love doing, or like it's not as compelling compared to the PhD? If it's the first case, I would definitely take the full-time job offer, because at least like you are going to earn more.
Great. So our next question is from PLN Reynolds, and PLN Reynolds has two questions. The first question is, how did you frame or pitch your dissertation research to potential employers? Did you feel like it was perceived as a strength that you had a PhD?
So I think I first want to correct maybe another misconception. Like people think, oh, industry are only hiring PhDs for data science position or senior data science position. It's not because of the PhD title. Again, it's because just on average, like PhDs are better trained to be able to think critically and creatively. So as long as you demonstrate that in your job interview, whether you are PhD or not, if you are prepared to answer those questions and show you are really a person with those skills, then you'll be fine. So thinking back at my interview, I don't think there was really emphasis on, oh, I have a PhD. It's more about they're just like pressure testing whether I'm asking the right questions, whether I'm thinking with them at my interview.
Great. And then the second question coming off of that is, how did you find mentors or a network more generally that helped you along as you transitioned into industry?
How did I find mentors? I'm just trying to think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the context for this question is that, you know, most PhD advisors are great at advising future faculty, but perhaps have less experience with non-academic career tracks. So in that case, you know, who do you go to for this sort of advice to help you go into that field a little more smoothly?
Oh, you mean how to find a PhD advisor that would help you transition into the data science field?
Not necessarily PhD advisor. It could be other people as well.
Anybody? Yeah. So I don't remember. I don't have particular like mentors, but I did like reach out to people when I read about their research paper and then had a specific questions. And also I went to conferences. Even I didn't want to be a pest, like asking like very asking questions to everybody. But even if like at the conference, I talked to someone who provided insights, just that 5 minutes is a valuable mentorship for me. So I think rather than thinking about how to find a mentor, you might want to just like get into the field, talk to many bright people and get their ideas and their advice.
Great. Next, we have a user called Feng. Feng says, I have a PhD in cognitive neuroscience. I have been a postdoc slash research scientist for 7 years now, and I'm now a programmer and data scientist at a university. Working on certain kinds of data within research, I presume. I wonder what are the next steps I should take if I would like to get a data scientist job in a really large company? Do I still need to obtain, say, a data science certificate, master degree? And also, not sure if you can speak to this, but would age matter in this sense? As in, if you're a non-traditional PhD student, your age could be more than the traditional 27, 28 when you're out. And the question is, would that matter as well?
So I only speak for Wayfair. I do not think age matters. So it's more about your skill and your work style, whether like basically whether you can solve problems, whether you can work with others. These are more important than anything else. Regarding suggestions for the next steps, I think you have like a neuroscience background, which is much better than my chemistry background. It's more relevant to data science, and you are already a data scientist. I would say if anything, you might want to polish your communication skills. Again, I don't know, like maybe you are also already good at that. So I would just like, if you are really interested in a data scientist position, I would just apply and see what happens. Because even if it doesn't happen the first time, at least you get some feedback and to understand how maybe why I didn't do well at interview, which skills I still need to polish. It goes back to my lesson, like go out there and try.
Yes, that's for sure. And a lot of great questions here and more to come. So our next user is Arun Chandra, and this user is wondering, I found it hard to get into the Insight Fellowship program for the past 2 years in spite of having experience in programming and some hands-on experience in ML in my research. Do you have a sense of what is the most critical aspect they look for in candidates?
Um, you probably want to ask the program directors, but I think my 2 cents, your hard skill like programming is like it's like a bar you can enter, but more important, they are looking for like whether you have done independent research. Then you can think like critically and also creatively, and also your communication is very important as well. And if you haven't done so, you should try to build your like personal project, because I think that is, for me, that was like the final reason I got in. And also to add more flavor into the story, I applied 3 times before I got admitted into the program.
That's really good context to have. I think in a lot of these, even in bootcamp situations, sometimes it takes it takes many tries. Good insight there. Our next user is Nelly Tacheva, and Nelly wonders, what does a manager of data science teams need, such as things to look out for leading a team of data scientists. Nelly's situation is that he or she is transitioning from software development to data science.
So what the question is about?
So if Nelly were if I were to lead data scientists, what would I need to know or have or do?
Oh, that's a very broad question. Like there are many things you would have to consider. So one is there are a lot of so how to lead a data science team. It might depend on the industry and even on the company. So as a data science manager myself at Wayfair, my like key job responsibilities is to understand what our marketing stakeholders need. Really understand their priorities, their roadmap, and be a thought partner. Like really, even like maybe they need one thing, and if I understand what they really need, I can suggest a more productive path, or like just brainstorm with them together to get to the end goal faster and more efficiently. And secondly, for your team, you want to lead a team of members who who are all like motivated to do their work, but also like have I think it's best to have complementary skills so that they can all learn from each other and help each other to make the work more productive. So the other thing you want to consider is if you have multiple work streams, really connect the dots. Maybe like you can they have a common theme, and you want to avoid reinventing the wheels. You want to avoid like duplicating work. So maybe you can prioritize one type of modeling in one work stream and then let the others adapt, and then the other type of modeling in a different work stream. So these are like all considerations.
Great. So this seems like a pretty common question here from our user, Jat. Hello, Jen. I am a postdoc in theoretical particle physics. I'm looking for opportunities outside academia to build my business acumen. What would you suggest doing to build my business experience while I am a postdoc?
So I think there are consulting clubs in a lot of universities. You could join that. What they do is they have some business cases to work on together. I think there are also like online resources. If you search like practice business cases, you can find some of the resources. To I think one way to do that is find other people who have similar goal and form a group and practice together and provide feedback together.
Great. A lot of great questions here. We have one last question from Mike Lane. What is it like to work at Wayfair, and what is your most favorite and least favorite thing about your job?
My working at Wayfair, as I said, is very dynamic. I really enjoy my favorite part is people I work with, not only on the data science team, but also our stakeholders, our partner teams. Everybody is so smart and so humble at the same time. Like sometimes we even have different opinions, but nobody takes it personally. We take our work seriously, but never take seriously of ourselves. So we sometimes we try to come up with a solution together, and it's just a lot of fun. Least favorite, I don't think I have any. I'll get back to that if I think of any, but so far I'm really happy at Wayfair.
That's great to hear, Jen. And I feel you on that. Having great people on your team is one of the best things to go into work for.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, our session has come to an end. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And Jen, thank you so much for being here. I think we got a lot of great questions today and a lot of great discussion points. So hope that people have found it very useful.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. It's a pleasure.
Right. Yeah, you're welcome. And if any of you still have any questions for Jen, Jen will be hanging around in Slack for a little while afterwards, so you can ask her some more questions. And yeah, without further ado, we'll end the session with the next session beginning at 2.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.